Tonight, new details about a 15-year-old who was shot by RCMP in Alberta.
And I would rather have him spend more time in jail.
A man who led a fraud ring that forged Norval Morrisseau paintings has been sentenced.
Unfortunately, this is a 21st century problem and we're trying to solve it with 20th century tools.
And hip-hop artist Drees warns about the use of AI on social media. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. There are new details emerging about the story involving a 15-year-old, Haas Lightning, who was shot to death last week after a confrontation with RCMP officers. APTN's Chris Stewart joins us. Chris, can you fill us in on the latest?
Dennis, the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team, otherwise known as ACERT, released a statement today that gave a few more details of what happened on the early morning of August 30th. The statement also leaves other questions unanswered. It says officers responded to a 911 call from a youth who had been identified by the community members as 15-year-old Haas Lightning. Lightning said he felt threatened for his life and people were following him. A single officer located Lightning in the city of Wetaskiwin. The incident was recorded with RCMP dashcam video and audio. The two spoke and Lightning turned over a machete and a knife. The officer, who the ACERT statement does not identify, determined that Lightning was at risk and attempted to apprehend him and search his backpack. The statement says that while he was initially cooperative, Lightning fled a short distance away. The officer followed in his car and was joined by an unspecified number of other officers assisting the call. According to ACERT, the officers approached Lightning and a confrontation occurred. Two officers discharged their firearms. First aid was provided and EMTs transported Lightning to a hospital where he died. The ACERT statement does not say what Lightning was at risk of, how many times he was shot, or why he was shot if the machete and knife were no longer in his possession. ACERT is asking for any witnesses to contact them. The officers have been placed on desk duty for the time being. The RCMP and ACERT are both investigating. We'll have more on this story as it develops. Back to you, Dennis, in Winnipeg.
And our Truth in Politics panel will be here later in the show to discuss this issue more. A man who headed up a fraud ring, forging more than 2,000 pieces of art by Anishinaabe artist Norval Morrisseau, has been sentenced to 5 years in a federal penitentiary. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
52-year-old David Voss had previously pleaded guilty to charges relating to his central role in the fraud ring, which ran out of Thunder Bay from 1996 to 2019. The 5-year sentence does not include any restitution for the estimated $100 million the Norval Morrisseau estate lost because of the fraud scheme. But estate CEO Corey Dingle says it is fair.
I understood the trade-off of, going for restitution usually equates a smaller sentence, where if there's nothing there to gather, then I would rather have him spend more time in jail. That does not preclude us going through any civil matters with him.
Sentence was handed down by Justice Bonnie Walkerton in Thunder Bay Superior Court Thursday afternoon. Walkerton told the court this case was more than art fraud. It was a case of cultural appropriation of Canada's most loved artist. The Morrisseau estate has been pursuing charges against Voss and other fraudsters since the mid-1990s. Dingle says he hopes because of the case, Canada realizes it is time to update its art forgery laws.
Because Canada, as a young country, is hundreds of years behind proper legislation and proper policy change that our European counterparts enjoy. And Canada, being a young country, we haven't had the opportunity to enact these types of policy changes.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
To the west coast now, where the Comox First Nation on Vancouver Island is speaking out against an upcoming comedy show set to happen just 4 days before this year's National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Say the comedy show's date is an insult to reconciliation efforts. In a statement, Comox First Nation says the Danger Cats comedy troupe from Alberta plans to host the show on September 26th in an undisclosed venue in the town of Comox, British Columbia. First Nation wants local governments and businesses to take a firm stance against the event and prevent it from spreading what they call messages of hate and division. Last February, the Danger Cats canceled the show in Vancouver after MMIWG protesters showed up. The Cats were selling Robert Pickton merchandise on their website and joking about his victims and residential school survivors. Pickton killed 26 women in BC. He was convicted for killing 6 in 2007. Pickton himself was killed last year by another inmate in a Quebec prison.
To the Danger Cats, I think I would ask them to reflect on the content of their show, the jokes that they're making. These are real people, real lives that have been impacted by this tragedy, and to make light of the horrific crimes of the late Robert Pickton it's unacceptable. And I would just urge them to really reflect on that content and what they're profiting off of.
Just to clarify, Pickton was killed earlier this year. APTN News reached out to the Danger Cats comedy group, but did not get a response. 2 Indigenous people have been killed by police in the past week. Coming up after the break, our Truth and Politics panel will be here to discuss. Welcome back. It's been a deadly week involving Indigenous peoples and law enforcement. Last Friday morning, as we told you, a 15-year-old Samson Cree Nation boy, Haas Lightning, was shot dead by RCMP officers in Wetaskiwin. In Winnipeg on Sunday, Tammy Bateman, who was living in an encampment for homeless people, was hit and killed by a police vehicle. Both incidents are under investigation by provincial police watchdogs. For more on this, our Truth and Politics panel is here. Negon Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press, and helping us out this week is Bronwyn Dobchuk-Land, an associate professor of criminal justice at the University of Winnipeg. Bronwyn, Negon, thanks so much for being with us. Negon, as I mentioned in the intro, a deadly week for Indigenous peoples and interactions with law enforcement, all coming ahead of a verdict in another high-profile case in Manitoba involving the death of William Amo, a correctional officer charged there. Just your thoughts over the past week here.
Well, the closest I have been working with is with the Amo family. I know William's mother very well, and I know William's son. This is reverberated throughout not just the Amo family, but also throughout the entirety of everybody related to the family. This death and the horrendous deaths that have occurred in the Indigenous community over the past week has been a reminder that while we may at times see justice, such as in the Skibitsky trial, we continue to not see institutions change, things like prisons, or in the case of the Winnipeg police officers' treatment of a woman in an encampment. It may have been an accident, but the reality is that there is a ongoing situation of poverty, and multiple institutions are incapable of dealing, which has been our inheritance of colonialism and an ongoing genocide that's taking place in Indigenous communities right in front of us on the streets of Winnipeg.
Bronwyn, thanks for joining us this week. I appreciate that. But you teach courses on race in the criminal justice system and colonialism in the criminal justice system. Negon's touching on it there, but can you talk about the conditions that, make police violence more likely?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for asking that question. I think that sometimes we get into kind of mental gymnastics about what the causes of police violence are, and really fundamentally the causes of police violence are policing itself. The surest way to reduce police violence, the surest evidence-based way, is to reduce people's contact with the police. And instead, what we've seen over a few decades of decision-making in Winnipeg and Manitoba now is the steady creation of a situation where when people are in crisis, when people have emergencies, or even when people aren't in crisis and don't have emergencies, they are more likely to be responded to by the police rather than some other type of service response. So the conditions that make people vulnerable to interpersonal violence are actually really similar to the conditions that make people vulnerable to police violence. And those are the conditions that reduce people's power over their own lives, the conditions that reduce the spaces that people are allowed to exist in ways of their choosing, the conditions that cause people to be scrutinized for having needs that are visible. I think that the movement to defund and detask the police is really about reducing violence of all kinds, in this sense of the more that we can empower a range of responses to people's problems that they can access in ways of their choosing, the more we will see people protected from violence, including police violence.
Negon, there are calls for accountability here in Winnipeg, also in Samson Cree Nation. What can the Indigenous community do to hold police accountable?
No one has ever said we need to get rid of all police and not have police. I mean, that's the biggest misnomer and misunderstanding. The Indigenous community is taking the lead in different imaginations, different ways in which police systems can truly be about justice. What they can be is about systems that show evidence of love, of kindness, of empathy, And oftentimes there has to be at times a use of people to in the areas of protection, particularly people who have arms, who have protective means that can help communities. Indigenous peoples are fully aware of that. But at the same time, the ways in which Indigenous communities offer justice is about restorative practices. It's about trying to build a community and also be proactive. And so we have to reimagine policing as not just something that's reactive or something that deals with on the end of situations, oftentimes highly conflictual, often full of historical mistrust, often turn to violence very quickly. But think about the ways that policing that is being done in areas of justice and empathy, which are being led in the streets of Winnipeg, this various street patrols for Mama Bear Clan, Initiative, all these different organizations, because what they do is they lead with proactive instances of empathy, caring, kindness, and love. And that's what justice should ultimately be about. It should be about building community, not about throwing people into jail, not about creating more conflict and division, and certainly not about violence.
Bronwyn, in both of these cases, the Alberta and the Manitoba Provincial Police watchdogs are looking into these incidents, as they always do. But it's been expressed that there's not exactly a lot of faith in those systems either. Should Indigenous peoples have reason to be concerned about these independent institutions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're independent in name, but the IIU in Winnipeg hires former police officers as its investigators. And all we need to do is look at the kind of outcomes of IIU investigations to see that the IIU is very reluctant to prosecute police officers who have caused death or bodily harm. And even if they were going to prosecute them, would that really be justice when we see that this is a pattern, that police are allowed to act with impunity, that the fundamental power of policing, which is the use of discretion, allows them to use violence. So this again comes back to the idea that, the problem isn't police officers not being held accountable so much as it is policing as a response to social problems. I think that's something that has been done so effectively in Winnipeg, and that I'm really grateful to the APTN for covering, is families' advocacy in relation to the deaths of their loved ones at the hands of police and prison guards. One of the things that I think is so infuriating for people who are dealing with police or prison guard violence is that there's no place for them to put their stories and have them be believed, because it's always set up as this, it's your word against the cop or whatever. But families have really done hard work to kind of push and carve out spaces to say, this is our story. We're angry about it. We loved this person was loved. And to make connections across those families and to support those families is, I think, part of the important political work that needs to be done to reduce police violence. I don't think we should have faith in these technical or bureaucratic investigative processes. This is really a political question about where we allocate resources for responding to people's problems, and about how we build, systems and societies where people's lives matter more than property. Yeah, I think that there's reason to be suspect of the IIU for sure.
Bronwyn, Niigaan, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate you both weighing in on this issue this week.
Miigwech, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And you can catch up on all of our Truth in Politics panels by visiting our APTN News YouTube page. Time for one last quick break, and then a warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Skimming across the calm waters of West Hawk Lake, Jason Corshane, still on holidays, snapped this photo of the clear skies while enjoying his vacation time in southeastern Manitoba. Enjoy, Jason. Be sure to share your photos by sending them to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at your Friday weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, cloudy and 20 in Halifax, 24 in Fredericton. Cloudy and 7 in Kuujjuaq, partly cloudy and 9 in Nain. 27 in Montreal, just 8 above with showers in Val-d'Or. 13 with rain in Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 18 in North Bay. 15 in Thunder Bay, partly cloudy and 16 for Sioux Lookout. 17 in God's Lake, Thompson and Puckatawagan. 19 with showers in Winnipeg, 20 in Brandon. 24 and sunny skies in Regina, 28 under the sun in Saskatoon, 27 in Meadow Lake, sunny and 23 in La Ronge. Over in northern Alberta, 25 in High Level, 24 in Fort Chipewyan. Sunny and 32 in Edmonton and Medicine Hat, 31 in Lethbridge. 23 and sunny in Vancouver, 35 under sunny skies in Kamloops, 28 and sunny in Prince George, 25 in Smithers, 19 in Old Crow, 17 for Whitehorse, 21 in Yellowknife, sunny and a high of 22 in Norman Wells, 10 in Sax Harbor, showers and 16 in Pawlatuck, 11 in Chesterfield, 12 in Whale Cove, -1 with snow in Resolute, snow and 2 in Arctic Bay. An Indigenous hip-hop artist is warning others as the use of artificial intelligence, or AI, begins to grow within the social media landscape. He learned that AI imitation is not the sincerest form of flattery. Sav Jonesa has more in this story.
Most celebrities are used to fans reaching out with love and support through social media, but the inbox of one hip-hop artist has been filled with accusations that he's running a scam.
One message was like, you owe my sister. My sister's already going through a hard time. You know, how could you do that to her? She's a big fan of yours. And I'm like, okay, what?
Multi-award-winning hip-hop artist Dreeza says accounts impersonating him are popping up across social media platforms. He's now warning others to watch out for deepfakes, videos made to look like real people by fraudsters using generative artificial intelligence, or AI.
I hate that I have to make a post like this, but the fake accounts are getting out of hand. They're making personalized messages to create this connection, this false connection, and lead people on to believe that it's actually me. And they've been getting personal information, they've been getting money, they've been getting bank accounts. Like, come on, check this video out. It's scary.
Hey Samantha, how you doing? I hope you had a good day at court.
So for me, I could see the mouth.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely manipulated. And yeah, the way the eyes are kind of, it was different. It was so weird to me. It's like, it was almost like seeing a robot version of myself, you know, and it freaked me out.
Turns out Dreeza isn't alone in his struggle.
Just about every celebrity has been deepfaked.
Ritesh Kotak is a cybersecurity analyst who specializes in emerging technologies. He says people used to need coding skills and sophisticated technology to create deepfakes.
However, now the technology has become very simple, and you could literally use apps that you could download in the App Store to essentially clone someone's voice, recreate an avatar that looks very realistic of a particular individual.
Kotak says some people use deepfakes to sway public opinion or just to have fun, but they're mostly used for scams for financial gain. Dreeza says that motive is not what he stands for and goes against his message of building up community.
I just felt violated, and I felt so bad for the people who on the receiving end of that.
He and his fans are reporting the fake accounts all the time, but he feels it doesn't seem to change anything.
I feel like the emails just, they're just like get lost in the metaverse, like it's like, do they care?
APTN News reached out to Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram, as well as TikTok, the 3 platforms used by the fake accounts. Meta told APTN News that they've removed some of the accounts APTN News brought to their attention for violating their authenticity and scam policies. They added that in their second fiscal quarter this year, Meta actioned 1.2 billion fake accounts, with 99.7% of accounts actioned before people reported them. While TikTok continues to investigate, they remind others to report such accounts under the reason of impersonation.
So social media companies can definitely do more, but it's essentially a game of whack-a-mole. You figure out 2 ways of preventing this technology from being used, and 4 new ways to circumvent those protection measures crop up. And that's just the rate of change that's happening in this space. So more needs to be done. There needs to be greater investment. But unfortunately, this is a 21st century problem, and we're trying to solve it with 20th century tools.
Kotak says if someone famous ever reaches out to you, make sure to verify it's coming from their official page.
And there's nothing wrong with asking a friend. Just hit that pause button. Don't do anything in that moment. Hit the pause button, ask a friend, and have them verify, is this real information? Is this legitimate? Or is it somebody trying to scam you out of your hard-earned money?
Dreesa says despite the issues, he has no choice but to continue to use social media to share his work and connect with community. A connection that he says will always be better in person.
And I feel like this deep fake in AI is just another sign that we are losing that connection, to the point where people are literally using our likeness and our images to create fake connection.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Sav. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. We will be back here at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow with Creason and your first look at the day's news. And for news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. Stick around, an encore presentation of Face to Face is next. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.